Hi, welcome to the 34th edition of the GrandLine Grinders podcast. And today it's going to be a short podcast again with Repreach as my co-host. Hopefully next week
Yahoo!
maybe Flaffic can actually come around. He has to get up early in the morning for I think work, so he is not able to attend. Hopefully next week we'll be able to get the whole crew, at least some number of at least a third member next week. And today we're going to be talking about the brand news about extra regulation, which and I think in America it's called unlimited format, as well as discussing the OP14. It's been out on the sim for about a week, and we finally have some power rankings for it. How are you doing today, Repreach?
Whew! Today has been one hell of a long day between going and losing a tournament at Top Cut and running all around and getting groceries.
Oh man, yeah, grocery shopping is so fun, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's the best. So like I said, we're gonna get into the power rankings first. Like we haven't done this in a while, but that was just because OP13 was so boring, it didn't really matter. But now we have a little bit of an interesting thing happening here. So let's get into that. So the 9.68% rating out of 10. So if it hits 10, that means it's just complete S tier, right? And there's no room for wiggle. But it is a little interesting that every matchup is green except Gecko Moria. I find that very
Ooh,
interesting.
yeah,
What do you think?
that's probably going to need some sort of special attention or some sort of weight dragging it down, if not a sniper, as it's going to climb up the meta rankings to make either those match numbers change a little bit more for some more data, or well, somebody figures out how to tech against this thing properly.
Yeah, I mean, look at it. It's like 56.5% win rate. That's pretty obscene, especially since typically deck lists are brought down by maybe players that are new to the deck. It's only been out for a week, so I mean, there's probably going to be an influx of players that are still trying to learn the deck. And the fact that it still is racking in a 56.5% win rate is kind of alarming.
Yeah.
Um, Emu has definitely now has found multiple matchups where it's just not good into. Kaido, the new Kaido is showing up down here at the 9 drop slot or ninth place ranking. Um, Slightly under 50% win rate, but it is favorable into Emu, which is a little interesting. So is Gecko Moria. And then so is Boa and Mihawk and Ace. So like a lot of the top three decks, most of them have multiple matchups where they're just bad into and reasonable to others. I don't necessarily it's not necessarily a triangle meta because I mean Boa Hancock is here. So what do you think about the top three decks technically? That's not Boa. Top yeah.
I think it's still quite aggressively leaned in one favor, but if we reduced it out from this little square that we now exist in, I think that we can see that uh, Ace is doing a little bit too crazy.
Yeah, Ace has three bad matchups and Zoro,
Well, if
which
you exclude the number one leading deck right now, it's only three at that point, and one of which is fairly out of the meta
what I find a little
in
interesting here
comparison.
is why is this a 50.1% into itself? That's a little weird.
There might be some sort of issue with the maths in a draw.
A draw, yeah. Um, Now, what I did find a little interesting about this actual data is Gecko Moria. So Gecko Moria was the leader when it came out. People were basically underhyping him. They thought he would be like the sixth best leader of all of them. Like it's only better they thought than Law. But turns out his 53.9% win rate. Yeah, it's only of a sample size a little over 900 games, but still, it's showing up pretty good. It's has win rates into most decks besides Ace and Roger. So everything else is pretty good into. I do find it maybe a little interesting that maybe this leader was underappreciated when it came out. What do you think?
That does leave a question, though, looking at towards the bottom. Mihawk looks absolutely miserable right now, with
Yeah,
its only two good matches being against Ace and
Emu.
against Zoro.
Oh, it's also good into Roger and Emu, but it is bad into Boa, Kaido, Luffy, Dofi, and Moria. I found if I remember correctly, Mihawk does have a lot of um, room for error. So like if you are a bad player on Mihawk, it will show. Not calling myself out there because technically I didn't do that great with it. Then again, I'm not really a green player, but I do know like this deck has less room for mistakes than something like Bonnie. So if you do make a punt, like it's gonna reflect in your win more often than not. So like once you get those fine tuning edges, this percentage might come up. But we also got Roger, slightly above 50% win rate, coming in from last season. Like it's one of two, I think. One of three OP13 leaders still around. Um, I did find it a little interesting that Zoro has more play than Bonnie on the sim. I would have thought Bonnie would have been in the top 10 just because she has like such a good depth of good cards. But Doflamingo makes sense. This is also a leader I think is very complicated and the lines are very tricky. To master it is going to take a lot more work than any other deck. So like having a slightly under 50% win rate, I think is actually a good sign. Just because of that factor. Like once people start mastering it, this deck should become a 50% plus win rate deck. And then you have Luffy, which I mean, it got the new Roger promo, but it looks like it kind of lacks into Emu, Boa, which are just two of the best decks in the format. I don't think you could take two gigantic hits and stay meta relevant. Or what do you think? Am I wrong or not?
I don't think a deck can take two major hits unless if it is a above tier zero deck to stay relevant and the rest of the format gets wiped along with it, or it gets something as a side to be able to step into as a different package. I don't think it's going to be around for too much longer, given that it's not getting any of that to happen enough to propel it.
Yeah, I mean, because against Boa and Emu, it's basically 35% into both, which are first and second place. Yeah, I mean, you're favored into Ace and Mihawk, but then the only other deck you're favored into is Zoro, which is the 10th place deck, which probably won't be around much longer. So, like, you
Now,
don't
the thing
really.
is, we always do have to keep in mind that popularity does have to weigh and not just the win rate. As these things flutter around, those numbers are going to change, and you can always tech for a matchup. So that losing matchup might change enough that it could pull through.
Yeah, but typically you try to target matchups where you're close and you fix that gap. So like Luffy, you could easily adjust a few numbers and maybe make Kaido favorable because it's only a 49.4% win rate into it. So like the chances of getting 0.6% meta shares in your favor, it's not going to take that much and it wouldn't probably would not disrupt your Ace and your Mihawk matchup. But getting it from 35% up to 50%, that's going to take a lot of slot changes. So I do worry that might actually reduce your Ace matchup and your Mihawk matchup in the process. But I could be
It's
wrong.
just a question of call.
Yeah, if you want to stay meta relevant, it might be something that you're going to have to do. But I do think the overachiever is Moria. And of course, the best deck is seemed definitely Boa Hancock. Like I said, Moria, nobody thought was going to be a relevant deck or good enough to be in this category. And originally, I think we put him over Crocodile in the last week, and I was hesitant on that because I thought Crocodile was the better deck in general. But it showcases here that technically Moria is better. So I
I mean,
got
honestly, I still had doubts that Moria would be even decent considering the history of how that colors work together and how Gecko and those decks function. But hey, he's showing up here and he's showing up with fairly strong representation. I don't think it's going to be that long before people learn how to play against it, but it is a beautiful thing to see that one of these decks are back up on the rise.
yeah. I mean, I think it's because this is a very the two best decks are heavy trigger decks, right? Gecko Moria relies on triggers to get back and reanimate stuff. So like it's very trigger oriented to make put bodies on board for free. And so is Boa Hancock. So
So,
once
given this stable meta that we're kind of trying to see form out, maybe a couple decks that might pop up in here, do you think that the next move will be Blackbeard showing back up as I keep hinting at?
so Blackbeard would have to play Starve, right? Um, I think that's one of the key things between these two decks here. I think it's been a long time since we had a good yellow deck, and trigger decks weren't very popular. So I do wonder if this high win rate is going to start going down as more people realize how to pilot against heavy trigger decks and how to properly starve them. Once people learn how to do that efficiently, it might drop. Because it does take a lot of retraining of your brain to just not attack and try to set up to where you can get this. Because like against Boa, it's weird. You can't even attack board because if you hit a board, you remove something off board. Well, then they just still trash a card from your life to your hand. So it's like very very weird. So I'm hoping this switches once people learn how to play around yellow. I we'll see. We might have to get you to test out Gecko
Gecko.
Moria because it is a reanimator shell, but it also plays yellow. Like there's a lot of yellow factors in it, so you might like it. I don't know. We'll see. So if you want to see us play Gecko Moria, let us know in the comment sections together. I already played it once on for this channel, so it'll be airing I think beginning of next month. I think because there's like I already recorded every single new leader, so like it'll be airing at the very end. But I'm probably going to try to set up a time to work with Repreach and play Gecko Moria together. So
Maybe there might be a coaching session for people that are a little bit worse in One Piece than others.
no, I don't know how much of a coaching will be. Yeah, you'll have to teach me how to play the deck.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So we're going to go get into some of the deck lists that have done recently. So tournament wise, it's very interesting. So tournament wise, we've had 3 Chinwanzi Cups, and so far we had a Rosante on the list. Lin made it. Red Green Luffy made a pretty good result, which actually won it last time.
That's absolutely insane in my brain going, damn, that card pulled it through.
Red Green Luffy.
Yes.
Yeah, it does have some flaws in the deck. Like I said, Rosante got 6th. Pretty interesting. Kuzan got 1st. Gecko Moria showing up more. Again, Crocodile made 6th. And 8th, another Kuzan. Doflamingo got 1st for the first one. And Blackbeard got 6th, which I thought was a little interesting. And then we have a Kaido got 7th here. What I found really interesting about the the Blackbeard, of course, was the fact that I was expecting the new event to come in from the Crocodile. It's Ground Death, I think, isn't that what it's called? Yes. I was expecting Blackbeard to play Ground Death, but it's not. I would probably, in my opinion, I would be cutting the kicks. Especially since I guess we do play Van Augur still and Doc Q. So like Tempest Kick is still pretty good there. But I just gotta imagine Ground Death being really good in this deck because it's not that hard for this deck to fill up 10 cards with our trash. And getting a 4K counter to save your Burgess or your Teach sounds pretty good. I don't know. 3 teach. Yeah, so this is like the traditional stock version of Blackbeard. So that's kind of all we have to talk about here. I mean, we could look at Rosante if you wanted. Sugar, interesting.
Interesting.
I mean,
Also a law.
yeah, the law makes sense. This makes sense because they can
I'm thinking
find
about the forecast law there with the foil.
this one,
Yes.
the 2K counter one. That's like
Yes.
stock because it is supernova and heart pirates, so it's really kind of essential because you need it for your 7 drop. Oh, they're not even playing the 7 drop. Interesting. Oh, this is definitely different. I was usually they play the 7 drop supernova law, and
It's a free
usually
play.
yeah, usually you have to play these because of supernova. You get to play down, put this onto the top of your life, so you gain a life. But it seems like we've gotten away from that package, and now we're more event oriented, which is a little interesting.
If
And
they're
bullet
truly playing
string.
into the yellow part of the deck.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. When I talked about my top 10 card, I talked about bullet string, but I didn't even piece it together that Rosazante could actually really benefit from that. So I like that actually. Yeah, so this is like a lot more event oriented, and it's more on the actual pirate type. Um, that makes a lot of sense because this also has that pirate type. That's a Lanawana, so it doesn't really matter. But that's heart pirates, which can be found off this. So yeah, there's definitely maybe a lot more than I thought. None of the laws technically count. This one does though. So yeah, this sugar could be pretty interesting. I might have to give this a try sometime. But yeah, so other than that, like most of these lists are, the decks you expect to see. Especially since I mean people are really wanting to try the brand new OP14 leaders. So and so yeah, we see these map outs. Um, Kuzon showing up pretty good with the new Isha, which I kind of like. Other than that, only one Croc. There's 2 tournaments with Crocs. But what do you think about this tournament? These diversities, deck diversity.
It's honestly more surprising that after everything we just saw that there's not more Boa showing up, as there's only 2 that are showing up out of all of these, and they're only 1 slot out of the top 8. So that might imply that either that there's a low representation of people still being able to get their hands on this list, or low trust, and that might change as things go on, or it might just be a little bit more balanced than the online numbers show.
Yeah, so you have to keep in mind the caveat here is that this cup is on the sim, so you can play any deck you want. It's not paper, so you don't have to actually own the cards. So like in that regard, like that shouldn't matter if it was actually just a very high performing deck. You should show up here, just because of the fact that I mean everyone could play this deck if they wanted to. Or maybe since this data it's literally just came out 3 days ago, maybe they weren't aware that this deck is actually just the best deck in the format, and they wanted to try out Kuzan or other decks that are more fun, like Crocodile. But
There's also the fact that it's an unofficial tournament, so there might be less on the line for just winning straight up.
yeah, I mean, they usually do it for a box, so you win, you earn a box. Which I was trying to do something very similar here in America, where we would have a tournament once a week where the winner takes home a box. But I will try to get another one scheduled for next month, because it'd be kind of weird to do it one this month. That's my goal, and see if we get more turnout. But yeah, I do agree. It is an unofficial tournament, but still, I think it's a pretty solid, diverse format. And yeah, so the last topic we have to hit up today, of course, is the announcement. So we're going to have a brand new format post rotation, and of course, is basically going to open up the card pool. So extra regulation is the basically the format from block 1 up to the latest cards. So any card is basically legal once it's on the ban list. So doesn't matter how many times cards the sets rotate. So next year block 2 will be added, and then block 3, like you keep going on and on. So this is for the people that don't like to play rotating formats. Um, but so it gives you best of both worlds. I really like having this flexibility, honestly, just because sometimes maybe one format is just bad, and then you can play the other format. So
It
like
also
Magic,
helps with pull rates on cards for the people that want to crack boxes and all that.
yeah. So like I think there's multiple reasons why I really like rotation. One of them, like I said, is the fact that more formats the better, because I mean if one format's bad, you just move to the other one until they fix it by bans, or
We have no experience with that whatsoever. None.
yeah,
None.
yeah. We just didn't deal with Magic the Gathering and having a standard being horrendous for like 6 months. So,
Nor did we deal with trying to play through modern to pioneer into standard.
and the other thing I really like about this is it keeps the power level. Once they reach the power level they like for card fun, design that are fun, I think they'll stay there, and then they can stay there because the cards rotate constantly. So, it keeps the power creep at bay, and they're able to keep at the certain power level they want. So I like that. We don't want a Yu-Gi-Oh fiasco where everything gets power creep to the point where it's just every set basically you build a new deck.
We also have to keep in mind that this will have the knowledge of all the predecessor card games and be able to look at them as a history rather than Yu-Gi-Oh, where it's the only one that never decided to ever create a format that actually rotated and
Yeah,
where that ended up in. And then on the other end, you have Pokemon that's practically only a rotating format, or currently Magic, which decided to only be the rotating format. And there's a lot of people dissatisfied with both of those to a degree, or a lot of people happy with Pokemon with the lower power level as it's going right now.
yeah, it's definitely a weird position right now in Pokemon where the power level is definitely took a hit. They're trying to come down because the I think tag teams were extremely high on power level, and then they try to come down from that to the Pokemon EXs, and they were still a little too good, and now they went down to Mega, and now they're a little bit weaker. So I think post rotation, people are actually kind of worried because you might have like a Ixalan into um, Eldraine situation where Ixalan was so underpowered that they might not actually see play in the next post rotation. And Dragapult will be the dominant one. Just because there's a huge power vacuum that just gets sucked out from the rotation. But we'll see. And
Now,
we're not here to talk about Pokemon.
I have an interesting thought process that might come along for a more unconventional format that may pop up in the future. What do you think about a format that only has 3 blocks as the ability for your deck building constriction?
So the latest 3 blocks,
No, not the latest 3, just 3.
you pick 3 blocks, any of them that you want, and you just build a
Yep,
deck.
yep. So adds flexibility as over time, but also adds an unlimited restriction where there's only so much things that can be paired up with each other.
So like, it's gonna be really awkward, right? Because I feel like a lot of people would just be picking 3, 4, and 5.
I think that would be the route people would go. But as the game's going to grow and go on, I think that's not going to be a potential bad strategy if there was going to be a third format added in for some sort of uniqueness rather than following from this point and block and up.
Yeah, I mean, they could leverage more of um sealed, which they have pre-release events. I'm gonna be attending my first one, technically the day this airs. I mean, that night I'll be going and doing one. So my first ever. So like they could also make more emphasis on sealed tournaments, but This channel, on the other hand, technically we do have a third format, and that is basically vintage oriented One Piece. So basically, nothing would ever be banned. Is everything at most is restricted to one. So technically, a leader can't be banned. So like technically, red, purple, law is legal. Nami is legal. Speaking of the ban list, let's go ahead and migrate to their discussions about the ban list. So the block one cards that are coming off of the ban list after rotation are Moby Dick, Great Eruption, Ice Age, and Enies Lobby. And so Nami is staying on the ban list. So it would not be a legal leader for the extra format. And they have not made any disclosure about the block twos that are on the ban list. Stuff like Gecko Moria. So I find that a little interesting. What do you think about this as a philosophy?
Well, I think I'm going to have some fun finally playing Great Eruption again. Though I will note there's some other funny cards that are still remaining on there, and all of these that are shown as of right now are events with all trigger. So we might see some more character cards come off as it goes.
Yeah, actually, this is actually probably, I think it'd be interesting, more interesting if stages had this as a trigger ability, where you could just play it. That'd be kind of more interesting. Hopefully they do that more often. But I find it interesting, though, that they didn't address the other elephants in the room. So, like, Reject is on the ban list. It's block 2. So, and they have Kingdom Come, or it's called Reiju. And I think on the sim.
Gecko.
Yeah, and then they have Gecko Moria, still banned. It's block 2. Jinbei is banned. That's block 2. I don't know why they show Sakatsuki. It's not banned anymore, but yeah. And
Lost
then
still being banned as well.
so I find it interesting that they are not reflecting on any of the block 2
The
stuff in this announcement. So
also find it funny how they're not reflecting on any of the leaders either. The things that people would probably love to play more in an unbanned format.
yeah, so I mean, like I said, they basically hinted Nami staying there, but that's it, right? So it seems like they are basically keeping one ban list across every format. So extra and standard have the same ban list, which I think is a little weird just because extra should be at a higher power level. So, like, banning a card that might be problematic for standard seems a little weird that you're also going to ban it in extra if they're going to keep them in the same BNR restricted list.
That would also mean that there's more likely of a philosophy of catch and release, where cards remain banned for both formats until it rotates out. Though,
Yeah, that's basically the philosophy. So if the card is not, it's not able to come back to standard, then it won't come to this
so that leaves the
format.
question of how unloved is the Eternal format going to get after its creation? Are we going to end up with a legacy like situation? In your opinion?
In what regards a legacy type situation?
Where the ban list is very non-oftenly looked at for the other end, for towards the Eternal format, and primarily BNR is only looking into the rotating formats.
That's how, I mean, I gotta imagine that's how it's going to be. Except for there is situations where if they unban these, they're like, okay, lobby's too strong, we're gonna put it back on the ban list. So even though it's not technically legal in standard, it's on the ban list because it technically still affects the extra
Now,
format.
keep in mind, there's also a world where we could end up with a choice restriction, not too unlike some other card games that I know of, or a point system, in the future. They could experiment with that going on, but we don't know whether if that's going to be locked in as just straight up banned going forward. Because eternal formats do need a little bit more different maintenance than per se a rotating one where things don't have as large as a card pool to maintain a view of.
Yeah, so like definitely that's kind of what I was saying as well. The fact that there's going to be cards banned in standard that should not be banned in extra, because I mean the power level is different, which is my biggest gripe about if they have one ban list that does both. That's my biggest issue with it. Because if they turn around and say, okay, let's say Boa Hancock, right, is a problem. Let's go ahead and hit a card from her, and to bring her down to other dex power level. I mean, that's fine for standard purposes, but is Boa Hancock also? I mean, may not be strong enough in regards to extra format.
As that stands, I don't think that's going to be a valid concern for at least another 2 or 3 blocks because of the lack of power creep that's going to happen, hopefully, going forward. We don't need to worry about that being so aggressive as the formats are fairly mirrored.
Yeah, so like you're right. The caveat here is technically, block 1 is at a much lower power level than the current block that we're going through. So, in that regard, we haven't gotten to the point where we have like 3 consistent blocks, or not blocks, but 3 consistent. It is blocks, right? That's block 1, right? Yes. So like eventually, we haven't got to the point where we have 3 blocks, like 4, 5, and 6, as your legal targets, where they're all just really, really strong. And at that point, like you would maybe see it in influx. I guess that increase in power level between these 3 blocks, 4, 5, and 6, means that you could accept a higher power creep. So maybe actually it's not that big of a deal, because it's not like standard or other stuff in other formats where like you're trying to bring down the power level. If it's consistent and they stick with the power level of 4, block 4 to 5 and 6, then maybe everything is at equal footing and it doesn't matter.
Perhaps.
Yeah. So overall, I think that maybe there's nothing to worry about.
Not for a minute.
Yeah, but I would like to see them actually made more of a difference in this format, because I feel like they could have taken off 4 cost Jinbei, allowed Dofi.
I think they could have as well, but the thing is, coming from the perspective of guesstimation, when creating a new format, you want to make it as successful as possible before doing more trimming. And as a format that has not been played yet, really, 4 cards is quite a lot of unbanning to do in one wave.
Fair enough. That is true. So, yeah. So I do think maybe we will give this a shot and see what this is like, even before the the rotation. Maybe we'll try and see how extra plays out. So if you're interested in doing extra tournaments like that, let me know in the comment section of this podcast, and maybe we'll give it a shot and hope create a tournament that you guys could join for win a box. And these 4 cards are off the ban list.
I will also note, it is funny they chose April Fool's Day for this. It's not an unprecedented move from a Japanese-based company to do that, something serious, but I think it's a little bit funny, at the very least, that something this unique and impactful is happening on that day in specific.
I mean, to them, do they have April Fools? I doubt it.
They don't celebrate it the same way that People in the States do.
Yeah, is
They
that?
know of the concept. They don't typically acknowledge the tomfoolery.
Yeah, I figured they wouldn't. So yeah, I mean, to them it's just another day. Like, I assume there's going to be a set coming out on April 1st.
Most likely.
I am curious to see what it is.
Well, we will see it when it comes out. And we'll definitely do some reactions and reviews before it does as the spoilers go along.
Okay, so it looks like there's no cards coming out on the first, even in Japan.
Mm,
Or
interesting.
maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it didn't give me it. Yeah, so no, all it says is April 1st is strictly just the implementation of the new extra regulation format and rotation.
Mm,
OP15 comes out on the 3rd, though. So a few days following this, OP15 comes out.
interesting.
Which I guess makes sense. I mean, I assume the 3rd is on a Wednesday or the 1st, April 1st. Yes, it's on a Wednesday, and usually a set comes out on a Friday. So I guess that makes
That would
sense.
track.
Yeah, that would track. So, so I guess it makes sense. I don't know why they really target 3 days before the next set comes out to do this. I would have just waited until the day before, maybe. I don't know. But I guess that they always do April 1st for rotation. I guess that's fine. I guess we do have a little extra time to talk about other topics. Unless you have something more to talk about this.
I think we've covered it pretty well here for the idea of the eternal format and the unbans.
So, otherwise, so we do have a little one extra new spoiler from OP15. So we have this brand new Monkey D Luffy, the second mono
Oh,
yellow Luffy. So the fact that he's yellow is a little interesting to me, and it's really kind of says a lot about the set in general. So 5,000,
Skypia.
it is Skypea, Sky Island, Straw Hat. So he's 5,000. So when one or more of your Sky Island type characters with the original cost of 6,000 or greater would be removed from the field by your opponent's effects, you may instead place the top card of your life into your hand. What do you think about this as a leader?
Sky Island type characters are going to be very interesting, but this is quite a unique card. Being able to exchange life for a character where normally that is an inverse relationship. I think this is going to have some very strong power with some higher level blockers, as that restriction of 6,000 or greater would invalidate a lot of leaders just innately before getting some buffs with some dons or some other sort of power buff. It's going to make it very. Where do they go? Well, it does say effects. It's not attacks,
Yeah,
so it's not everything.
yeah, you get tech into their stuff.
Yeah.
So what I find interesting about this, I think we're going to talk about after that we discuss the actual effect of this card, and that's his actual implementation. The result of him being in yellow is a little weird to me, but we'll talk about that
Because he can
after.
gain back the life.
No, not necessarily that. It's a different component. If you look back at the historic of Sky Island the last time, so I do find it interesting that I mean it's an okay leader, honestly. 5 life, 5K, um, and taking a life to basically stop your opponent from KOing by effects, you know, is okay of effect. I'm not gonna lie, it's not like a terrible effect. But what do you like? Do you think there's anything else you want to talk about this card before we get into the second half, based on
I
his power
think
level?
that it's going to be quite strong with any cost 4 or 5 blocker. That's pretty much all I can say because this card's going to be defensive enough where you're protecting your life in somewhat of a sense, but also not. Or not really. Ah, it's too much for the brain thinking about how this can all work out in one way or another. Because there's a lot of routes you could take that in deck building as it goes, knowing that life is a resource, and especially to yellow, that has never been truer.
So what I find interesting about this as an actual perspective, so the last time he came, Sky Island was yellow, right? But we had a Nell, which was yellow, and that was Sky Island. And of course we had Calgara, I believe in OP8. Or am I wrong? Yes. Which is also Sky Island. So people were really wanting to see a not necessarily Calgara this time around, but what's his name? This guy, a Wiper, as a leader, and people were excited about the potential of Wiper and Nell being a leader. But
It would have been funny if we had a Nolan leader too.
that would be interesting. But I think they might do that for a different set where they actually look back in time. So what
Yeah, when they
I
start
think
doing the flashbacks.
the interesting about this, right, is what does that mean for these two? Because I would think they would be leaders in the set, in yellow, but Luffy is the leader in yellow. So that either means that these two leaders are going to come out and they're going to be multicolored, to be yellow and another color, which is something I originally wanted. Right, I wanted Onim and Kagatsu and Kotori and etc. Satori. I wanted all of them to be not in yellow this time around. I wanted them to be in a different color, and that way you could actually separate the factions. Because originally you had your Enel's team under the same umbrella as you know, your actually maybe they weren't. None of them were in here, were they? So OPO8 had strictly all of the um, Shandon Warriors. So yeah, that's what I originally was hoping for. All the Shandian Warriors were not in yellow this time, but they were in another color. And Anel's tribe, or pirate type, is in a different color. So I was kind of hoping they would be Wiper would be a, let's say, yellow green, and then you had Enel being black yellow, and then they would separate into their proper tribes better this time around because they were not technically friends. But what do you think about the result of and Luffy being yellow?
I think the result of a Luffy being yellow is that they're wheeling back more so on the Straw Hat crew. They're starting to maybe fade that out as a trait that's able to be run almost ubiquitously.
I don't know about that. Like they have the new straw hat, I mean the ST29, which would has the Sanji that searches for straw hats. I don't think that's really the result. I think it's just I mean, yeah, this particular leader is a little different in that regard. I don't think it actually cares about straw hats at all.
It
So
does not,
he does
which
have straw hat
means
typing, but he
it does
cares.
have Straw Hat typing.
But he cares
But I
about
think they're
Sky Island.
wheeling back on the focus and care, maybe for some more power and synergy towards the other stuff. But it also could be just to slightly power down the Straw Hat crew as an overall thing.
Or maybe it's just so that they can kind of encapsulate more pirate types under one hierarchy. So that way they can maybe print less straw hats because maybe they heard that people don't they want to reduce the amount of straw hats they print. I mean, it could be a reasonable thing that the community asks, that they just are tired of
Well,
so
keeping
much
in
Straw
mind the
Hats.
health of an eternal format potentially in mind here is that if you have such an evergreen trait as Straw Hat that is actually actively used, it's going to limit future design for leading into that format. You'll artificially kill it just by not caring enough about it and overusing Straw Hat.
Yeah, so your argument more is they didn't want to have Straw Hats have such a big depth that literally is
Yes.
just unlike any other pirate group. Because they do have an
There's only
extremely high
one
depth.
pirate group that has been in every single season of One Piece.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like I don't want to say it's kind of like this because I mean, Magic's is so much worse. But for the longest time, they had their, you know, the planeswalkers, the group, and they would always be you know, the story point behind it. But you expect that with this because it is about Luffy. Um, but I don't necessarily think that they had to deviate from that. I mean, Straw Hats are, I think, a huge part for sure, but you could argue if you keep changing their colors, then they just kind of don't, power creep each other out to a high level. But then again,
Well,
also
that would
does.
just mean that the colors power creep each other out, not that the external Straw Hat leaders nor cards or crew would be able to compete, which is what, as a game design perspective, would have to look to more maintain. Because we're not going to get a every single set with Straw Hat. We're not going to get Big Mom. Uh, we're not going to get the what is Shink's crew's name?
Red Hat.
We're not going to get the Red Hats. We're not going to get the Whitebeard Pirates. We're not going to get every single one of those in every set. Unless
Yeah,
if they're changing their game design to kind of have it balanced out with a rotating with every new set printing forward. But as it is going on and going on, they're probably going to have to reel back from using Straw Hat Crew in a meaningful way in order to maintain an eternal format.
that could be very well valid, right? I mean, because I don't think people will be very happy if you can't play anything other than Straw Hats in the external format.
Well, anything other than Straw Hats are the most recent cards in order to power creep to keep up with the expansive amount.
Well, I don't even think it would be the most recent cards, right? Because even if you rotate, because right now they're not really printing that much purple Straw Hats anymore since Block 3, right? Now they're switching to green mainly. Now they're switching to yellow. So they're going around and hitting other colors. But even if they maintain that, and by the time they come back around to purple, the purple one could be rotated out. Um, and you
For,
print,
for the for the for the rotating formats,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But for the extra format, Straw Hats would have such extreme depth, unlike any other tribe or pirate type, that it would be kind of not good for the game. So
Yes.
I do
Or
agree
at
that
least not good for the longevity of a leader, which I think that would be more so an essence of some way of simpler game design is focusing on trying to keep different leaders at a relative strength and utility rather than focusing on individual cards or groups.
yeah, but then I think you lose kind of some of the identity of the game, where it is based off your pirates type,
Yes.
which I actually
I
really
mean,
like that
the
component.
only other set with just as much depth as we'll probably ever see with the Straw Hat crew is Navy. But I very rarely doubt that everybody wants just to be playing Navy and Straw Hat.
Yeah, I understand. Which is kind of why I kind of like going back to Marineford, because it really wasn't about the Straw Hats, right? It was about Luffy, yes, but it was about Whitebeard pirates, the Navy, Ace, everyone from Impel Down. So like it was not really about the Straw Hats. Um, maybe that's just an issue with maybe the show not really having a lot of sections of the story where it's not about just the Straw Hats. It's about just Luffy and everybody else that's not Straw Hat. I mean, but that should bring in, I think, a lot of
Well, I mean, they did
more
something
support
fairly
for
similar in Dressrosa, at
kind
least from the
of.
perspective of the show, where there was so many different characters and pieces and parts that there was a focus on not only individual pieces of the Straw Hats, but also the people of the island. You could argue the same what happened with Vivi when they were doing the Alabasta arc.
I mean, Alabasta, I would say it's less like that, but you could actually argue Dressrosa because certain number of the Straw Hat pirates did move on to Zoa. So the actual arc itself had less to do with more Straw Hats. It dealt with Frankie, Usopp, a few of them, but it wasn't overwhelmingly every single Straw Hat.
There was also the background on Corazon that happened during all of that, and Law as well.
Yeah, and then you have everyone that was in
There was
technically
Punk Hazard.
the stadium, right? The Coliseum.
Yep.
So you have all those people that you could add in. So there is a lot more depth. You're right in Dressrosa.
One Piece is not really. I like to think of it as this way. One Piece is not really a story about the Straw Hat crew. It is a story about the world that the Straw Hat crew is just moving through, and they are just the camera that we're viewing everything through. But they're not always in the main center frame. It is wherever they are that is part of the adventure.
Yeah. So I do hope we get more sets. These for our contacts that maybe not even a single Straw Hat's in it. I would be 100% okay with that. Hopefully they do more of that. I do understand the Marineford. They're going to print some number of Luffy in the set because when he goes there to save Ace. But I would like more sets like that. Maybe it's not based off the actual show. Maybe you pick like the battle between. I imagine this is going to be a yearly, your yearly anniversary set. It's probably going to be eventually Rock Pirates against Roger with the Navy, right? That whole arc. I mean, I would just hopefully they go and target other arcs, even if it was just an arc about Whitebeards against Blackbeard, right? Because there's a whole
Or the movie set.
Yeah, I mean, they could do the film. I never actually watched the film. I don't know if
They could do, what is it? There's 4 or 5 different films about One Piece.
fair enough. Yeah, they do have cards for that. But I was talking about more lines of just going more in depth, not having the theme, not necessarily of the card game being 100% based off around the show, but maybe make it where they take fundamental plots of the show and they extract it out to be a unique style of set. Like I said, Blackbeard and Whitebeard, right? Ace went through the entire time trying to take down Blackbeard. To make a set with no Luffy and Straw Hats, make a Blackbeard, Whitebeard, and a few other different pirate types that kind of have a separate side theme as well. You could do it Big Mom, and then you have your Vinsmoke family, and maybe like a different other thing too, where there's not really Straw Hats in it. It's just, except for Sanji, because Sanji he is a Vinsmoke. So something like that would be, I think, if I would find very interesting. But is there anything else you want to talk about regarding the potentialness of where we think OP15 is going to go? Because we know we're getting this, right? This is the only leader we know. Someone did spoil at some point, like the 6,000 attack. And now, but we never got any confirmation if that was real or not. I can't remember. I think it was dual colored, but is there anything you would like to see in OP15?
Nothing else that I can really think of other than some more interesting things that pull stuff from our trash.
Oh, so you want more black stuff?
I want more stuff that represents the color identity of black.
I do wonder. So this set here, I wonder if that is something that they might bridge more into. Can yellow be a secondary color for reanimation? Like, because right now, like reanimation strictly is black, except now they put all those Gecko Moria pirates in yellow, and a lot of them do reanimate by trigger effects. So I wonder if they could have a sub reanimation theme for yellow. What do you think?
I think there's a good shot there will be, but that all comes into play with how they layer everything going forward. Because some generic yellow effects are just to heal on play. And if you can recursively replay those cards, that starts getting into territory of dangerous with the current threshold of One Piece.
Actually, after thinking about it, piggybacking on our previous discussion, I mean, honestly, OP08 feels like it's not really based off the Straw Hats. I mean, yeah, there's Chopper here, and it's about his backstory a little bit. But Marco's not. It's more of a Whitebeard thing. You have Carrot for the minks, so that's a separate entire thing. Like it doesn't really incorporate Straw Hats there either. Um, and then of course Blue is like half Amazon Lily, half Whitebeard Pirates. So I really like that. And then of course you have King, you have Animal Kingdom Pirates, and Pudding. So Big Mom and Animal Kingdom Pirates, and you have tons of cards in purple representing that. Then of course your black also represents Animal Kingdom Pirates with Kaido, Queen, etc. And then you have your Calgara, which is your yellow. So there's a little bit of Straw Hats, but for the most part, it's strictly not Straw Hats. So I hope we do more sets like OP08. Is more what I was getting at earlier. I think that's a good setup. Like it's not really based off a story arc at all. It's just kind of random a certain amount of cards that are just I think I find interesting
Hmm.
for pirate tribes that aren't really that big of a that big at the time. I mean, because we didn't even really have a Minx card until Carrot in OP08. So I said this is something I actually wish they would do more of. I wouldn't mind like having one set be Straw Hat, then the next set you don't do Straw Hats at all, then the next set you do Straw Hats, and then kind of alternate them, just so you get tons of support for other pirate types. But yeah,
Yeah.
so I am intrigued to see how 15 goes because I'm pretty sure this set we're guaranteed, I guess, at this point to get two Straw Hat leaders because we know we're
Yes.
getting either Brooke or Frankie in the set too as a leader. Um, I'm kind of intrigued to see how that pans out. It's going to be probably DeRosa Straw Hat, so I'm kind of interested to see how that pans out. But and then again, I think 16 supposed to be in Rainford, so we should not get a Straw Hat stuff. Hopefully, we get like a Vonkov again, Sengoku, stuff like that. But we are running a little bit long. That's an hour, so that's about right on parity with how long our podcast should be. You have any closing thoughts about potentially the extra regulation or this new Luffy and OP15 predictions, or how you feel about the current format?
I think the current format going forward is going to take some things to resolve to deal with what's looking like to be the meta leader. Uh, Hopefully, Gecko is able to stay above the water, but only time will tell here, and people will figure out what's going on, and we may or may not end back up in a 3-deck format.
I don't necessarily know if that would occur because a lot of these decks do check and balance each other out. Like even Doflamingo has a decent amount of good
Well,
matchups.
if you look at what we have right now, you look at Boa, you look at Gecko, And then you might look at Dofi.
I mean, Dofi does lose to two of the three best decks. Actually, he loses to all three of the best decks.
All three of the current best decks.
Mm-hmm. But he beats up
But
everything else.
he only loses really. He doesn't really lose too aggressively to Boa here, right? With a 47%. Or am I misreading that?
He has a 41.3% win rate into it.
Yeah, it's a little bit hard to read on my end here from your screen.
That's fine. He also is 36.8% into Gecko Moria, which is a little troubling. So it looks like he's struggling into Yellow. But he's also not
But
that amazing into Emu or Ace.
he seems to be doing fairly well outside of that and everything else. Keep in mind, it's also a high skill deck to play, as you were saying.
Yeah.
So I would look into that, Gecko and Boa, with what's going on. If I'm mispredicting the third Leo here with Dofi, oh no, shame on me, but Boa is definitely going to be up there. If Gecko is able to maintain this rate at what he's going, that's going to be up there as well. And then it's just whether if something's able to snap the two of them in half or stick around to beat everything else along the ride.
Yeah, it really depends on what the future for Emo is, right? Because it also is 53.4% win rate. Not that much worse than Gecko Moria. So I do kind of want I'm intrigued to see how this progresses in the next couple weeks. Because this is only week 1. So people are still figuring out the exact, ratios, the perfect deck list. I mean, because even if you look at the best deck list of Doflamingo, right? Like, you don't know if this is the exact best list. This is the most winning list right now. But there's a potential that there could be some tweaks here that makes it even better. I definitely need to pick up some violets, I think. Seems like I don't own...
Probably so.
I don't think I own any violets. But I am basically going to pick up this deck. I like purple. I mean, Boa Hancock, I imagine, has to be pretty consistent. Like, it's pretty self-explanatory what cards you do run, what cards you don't run. Yeah. This is exactly how I figured it would be built. Like, not even a card. Basically no difference at all. The Re-Slave Arrows makes a lot of sense. 2 Femur. Oh, what actually was interesting here is there's no Jimbei. I wonder if that's going to change next week. Especially since Zoro is just so bad. It's only good into Ace. That's it. Like, it's so horrible across the board. So I wonder if this deck's going to fall off. And I'm intrigued to see if Jimbei comes in. Because Jimbei, I think, is one of the best aggro decks. And I'm curious to see that.
All right. Well, with that, Kebs, do you have anything else you want to talk about?
Yep.
4-year-old?
No. This is not really. You want to go ahead and go to shout outs. Shout out your channel, anything you're doing.
Look forward to some hopeful stream or something of the such where I do some cover songs. I don't know if that's going to happen yet or no, but yeah. And then I finally have literally the script behind me sitting for the video that I have to do for this channel here for what happened at Nationals, as I have to keep referencing that.
Yeah. Maybe we need to start up a white sports podcast. If I did that, would not be really talking on that much other than just kind of going through the topics as a moderator, because I've only played the game one time and I didn't really, I won my games, but it was against a robot, so I don't know if they...
He'll get sucked in sometimes, guys. Watch.
Yeah, eventually Reaper just keeps paying me money. I keep playing the deck and the game until I just get sucked in. Yeah. That's his goal, I think. That's his in-game goal. He's like,
AKA, send some donations through this. Come on, I need the monies to bribe KB to play some more Weiss.
Yeah, but at the end of it all, like, I get so much donations that I just stop playing Magic the Gathering altogether, and I replace it with White Schwartz.
I mean, that's the goal, is it not? Stop playing Magic, just play Weiss and One Piece. Boom.
Yeah, that's call out to all you Magic people that watch me. You need to up your game up. Watch more of my
Yeah,
content.
when was the last time somebody paid you to play Magic?
It's been a while. It's been a while. But it also doesn't really help that Magic the Gathering has stopped support for Pioneer altogether, which was the format that I was getting paid to play. So
Yeah.
good job, good job.
In the format that you were deciding to master in, and the format I actually enjoyed quite a lot after uh, Reed Duke got his top cut, or got his win up there at the Pro Tour, and then boom, they're like, actually, we don't care about this anymore. Screw every format except for standard.
They,
Actually, now screw standard too. We're adding in UB.
I mean, they still do support one, I think, modern
They
regional
still
per.
support Commander
No, they of course,
after
yeah.
rewriting the rules of Commander, so I can't even play Commander anymore.
Interesting. Maybe I need to make a Magic the Gathering podcast to talk about that. I'm kidding.
No.
Um, yeah, I mean, I definitely would be more open for different kinds of podcasts because I think podcasts are interesting. I would like to do a Pokemon one as well, but I definitely know I would not get Reach on board to do a Pokemon one because he does not like that card.
No, I absolutely do not like Pokemon whatsoever. But I think very easily we could get a Weiss one started. I could pull in Cade from the base damage crew and a couple of the other guys, and we could do something weekly fairly easily.
Or would you guys like to see Reach moderate a White Sports podcast? Let me know in the comment section if you are a White Sports fan. Because I feel like the advantage of One Piece is most One Piece players play other card games. Magic the Gathering, a lot of Magic Gathering people, a number of percentage of them only play Magic and they refuse to watch anything other than Magic. I think One Piece fans will play other card games. Like we will play Riftbound, we will play other TCGs just because we're more open to the concept.
Because they've already been reformed from playing Magic.
Yeah, once your brain gets undone from playing Magic, it's hard to go back. I'm having a hard time. Like since I've seen the light, like this is how a card game should feel. With One Piece, it's so hard for me to get into Magic the way I used to. I'm just
Airing out a
like,
conversation I had with somebody else that's a longtime viewer of yours as well. You came into the game with different expectations than both him and I came in fairly and agreed to basically the terms of how the game works during the second Modern Horizons, and that format is a very different format from when you started playing the game. And him coming in when MH3 just dropped, oh boy, oh that's very different.
yes, yes, yes. Like I'm assuming I know who you're talking about. I'm not going to mention his name, but yeah, he was a huge fan of the power creep because he likes the higher power level. I'm fine with.
Yep.
I like higher power level too. I just don't really care for free spells. And I didn't really care for them purposely
I I didn't care
destroying.
for grief existing for way too long. But this is One Piece. We don't need to talk too much
Yeah,
about
yeah, yeah,
magic.
yeah. And for me, so I do need to start on this my main channel. Both of our or hit the subscribe button on both of our channels and this one. I'd like to get this one up to 500 subs by the mid of this year. So let's get to 500. So yeah, I definitely my goal now is to keep going forward playing different decks. I'm revisiting leaders right now that I've gotten some boost by EBO4 or potentially OP14. I am trying to pull back on playing certain leaders too much because I think for a period of time I played like Blackbeard like 5 times within a 3 month span, 4 month span. So I'm trying to pull back on Blackbeard, even though next time I'm going to be playing on Blackbeard is going to be for the budget series where I play $30 decks, which I've recorded a Katakuri list and it's $30. It felt great, like absolutely great in OP14. So if you're interested in that, check that video when it drops because I do recommend it. You're gonna probably like the video, I hope, and the deck list is, which like I said, is $30. So I'm gonna be putting out a weekly video for budget One Piece. Um, and until next week, where we'll talk about, I don't know, something different. We definitely will be covering, of course, the meta power rankings again on a regular basis because this meta is a lot healthier until the point where Boa Hancock just takes over the format totally, and then we start cringing and waiting for OP15. I'm joking, of course. But until then, have a great rest of your week. We'll talk to you guys next time.